Thanks so much for joining us here on Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. These photos we're showing you, a blast of cold air moving on through just in time really for the start of the new year. It was kind of one level of snow and then a little bit more levels of snow. This is the fog there out there in Arvada. Then we move over to Berthoud. They got inches of new snow there. Hard to make out where the front yard ends and where the road begins. And then we got some video from Colorado Springs as well this morning. Some places the snow just as heavy and wet as the blast of cold we got last week. All right, well, let's give you one more perspective on all of this. For more like this, rather, go to Discover Colorado. That's all on Facebook. Okay, let's get right over to some breaking news now. Again, thanks so much for joining us for Denver 7 News at 11. And this has to do with some power outages reported in the metro. Let's get you over to the Excel outages map. This is a live look. Now, more than 1,500 customers have lost power. The majority of those on the northeast side of Denver and into Aurora. We're not exactly sure what's causing those, whether or not it is weather related, but we will bring you more info as soon as we learn it. Okay, getting back to that other perspective of the snow from our Lookout Mountain camera. Snow, it moved in overnight, kind of in that lull now, very foggy out there, but more snow is coming, and Katie LaSalle is here to time it all out for us. Katie?
Hey, Jason, Happy New Year to you. We're kicking off 2023 with, yes, cold and snow across a big portion of the state. It's lightly snowing right now in Denver, but you can barely make out City Park with areas of low-lying fog. A lot of advisories still in place with this system. We've seen the heaviest snow into the mountains and will continue to. Winter storm warning in effect for all areas shaded here in pink, northern, central, and southern mountains until 6 o'clock this evening. Winter weather advisories remain in effect. Also, avalanche danger, a big concern over our northern Front Range mountains as well for today. A winter weather advisory for the metro area down through Castle Rock, over the northeastern plains and out east will remain until at least 8 o'clock tonight, so it's not over just yet, the snowfall. Temperatures will also stay cold right now in the mid to upper 20s. We have another blast of snowfall coming, it looks like, later on this evening. We'll talk more about accumulations, what we're expecting with the totals from this storm coming up.
All right, Katie, a whole lot going on out there. And of course, this storm, a little unique for Colorado because we haven't really had a good melt cycle since the last storm. A lot of places are getting new snow on top of the old snow, and that's causing for a bit of a tricky commute out there. Denver 7's Brandon Richard is live out there in Broomfield. Brandon, you were driving around out there all morning. Good thing it's an observed holiday for many.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. We've been driving around the northern portion of the metro this morning. I can tell you that most of the main roads look like this one right here behind me. You see here, wet and slushy, maybe a few slick spots here and there, but for the most part, the snow that fell this morning not really causing any problems for drivers. But there was another danger that drivers certainly needed to be aware of this morning. In Broomfield and other parts of the metro, the big story turned out to be the heavy fog this morning. Visibility so poor, you couldn't even see more than a few dozen yards in front of you. Of course, all of this was on top of the snow from last week's winter storm. Much of that snow, as you mentioned, still on the ground. As you can imagine, snow on top of snow, not what people like Mitch Pingle like to see. Now, we found Mitch shoveling snow from his sidewalk in Broomfield. He says this morning's snowfall was a lot easier to deal with and shovel than last week's snow.
Here's what's really true. I like 1 inch better than 8. It was like shoveling water.
Like shoveling water. Now, fortunately, today's snowfall doesn't really compare to the bad stuff that we saw last week. And as you can see here behind me, the fog has cleared up quite a bit. We're live in Broomfield. Brandon Richard, Denver 7.
And those roads behind Brandon looking much better than my neighborhood streets. Brandon, thank you. Now to a different part of the metro. Traffic up on I-70 this morning, packed with people trying to get to the big snow up in the mountains on this observed holiday, or in some cases later today, they're going to be coming back down after the long holiday weekend or even week. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta is live from Morrison along I-70, talking with people either getting up to the slopes or preparing to come back down. Veronica, what's it like out there?
And most of them were really trying to get up to the slopes, Jason. I mean, it was pretty packed on I-70 here behind me. Like Brandon mentioned this morning, the story really was how dense that fog was, especially here where we were near Morrison, just off I-70. You can see that's still very much the case. So we kind of thought it would dissipate a bit, kind of go on, move on about its day. That hasn't happened quite yet. Still quite a bit of fog here. Now take a look at this video. We got this video a couple of hours ago. You can see the fog very similar to what we still have right now. There was a lot more traffic in those early morning hours, like I mentioned, but we spoke with two snowboarders. They got a little bit of a later start, and by late, I mean like 9 a.m. versus 6 a.m. So they had to endure some of that fog as they made their way up the mountain there. Listen to what they had to say about their journey to Copper this morning.
The drive, it might be a little foggy, but we're willing to make the drive to have some fun.
Taking your time, try not to rush. Like, obviously we want to be in the mountains. We want to get out there and go snowboarding, and we try and beat traffic and get up a little early, but with the fog and stuff, just taking your time, not going too fast, and just being aware of your surroundings.
And we were on the road really, really early this morning, around 4. I can tell you that especially on 6th Ave, the right and the left-hand shoulders, those were completely covered in ice. That was also the case here on this portion of I-70 that we're kind of overlooking. Snow plows, though, they came through really early again this morning, got rid of some of that ice. That doesn't seem to be an issue now, and we haven't seen those snow plows in quite a while, so they're probably dealing with snow elsewhere. For now, we're near I-70. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
At least until the next round of snow gets here, Veronica. Thank you. Now, avalanche experts in the state unfortunately say 2 people died within a week while skiing or snowboarding in the backcountry. The most recent was a man who was killed skiing with his dad near Breckenridge. His father had to be rescued. A large portion of the high country is under avalanche warnings right now. The biggest recommendation during an avalanche warning is not traveling into the backcountry. Stay within boundaries out at the resorts.
Mother Nature, it doesn't really care that it's our holiday weekend. She doesn't really care that tomorrow is a day off. It's dangerous avalanche conditions that are going to last through the holiday period. So please stay safe.
Now, if you do take I-70 in the snow, you can also download the Colorado Avalanche Information Center app. That has everything you need to know in real time. We're also staying on top of a different sort of weather disaster in California. Heavy rain and flooding it's causing is now blamed for at least 2 deaths there. One person was trapped in their flooded car. Another was hit by a swamped tree.
This is crazy. I've never seen it so deep here.
When you see the water moving this quick and rising like this, it's a little unsettling.
When I opened one of my gates, there was so much water, it was gushing and it knocked me over.
Literally floodgates there. More rain is expected this evening, although not as severe. The reason behind all of this moisture, there's what's called an atmospheric river that's flowing off of the Pacific Ocean. We're working to learn more about actor Jeremy Renner, who was critically injured over the weekend in a snowplow accident. Now, he has a large ranch in Tahoe and has recently posted videos of his plow there on Instagram. The actor, who's 51, is reportedly in critical but stable condition in the hospital. Moving now to a machete attack on 3 New York police officers there in New York City near Times Square. It happened New Year's Eve, just as hundreds of thousands of people gathered to watch the iconic ball drop there. Now, the attack was carried out by a 19-year-old who traveled from Maine to New York City, and now investigators say it could have been an act of terrorism. ABC's Morgan Norwood has more.
Federal authorities are joining the investigation into what could be the most serious potential incident of terrorism in the history of New Year's Eve in Times Square.
We have an officer staff at the location.
Police say this was the knife used to bludgeon 3 officers, one of them a rookie on his first assignment after graduating from the academy a day prior.
Unprovoked, a 19-year-old male approached an officer and attempted to strike him over the head with a machete. The male then struck 2 additional officers in the head.
According to investigators, officers shot the suspect in the shoulder. And moments after, dozens seen scrambling, running away in fear, worried there was a mass shooter.
Well, I thought it was a shooting, and I was trying to get out of there as quick as possible.
We thought,
somebody's trying to shoot as many people as possible. Another mass shooting.
Authorities say the suspect behind the grisly attack is 19-year-old Trevor Bickford. The FBI searching his home in Maine while investigators zero in on writings and social media posts that sources say point to recent radicalization. Law enforcement saying last month the suspect's mother told them she was concerned Bickford was gravitating towards dangerous Islamic ideologies. And the days before New Year's Eve, the NYPD security bulletin warned that jihadist websites had been calling for attacks, including stabbings.
And I want to be clear that the FBI, through the Joint Terrorism Task Force, is working very closely with them to determine the nature of this attack, and we will run every lead to ground.
Both federal and local law enforcement say the attack appears to be an isolated incident and there's no larger threat. I'm Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
We're also working to get more information on an Aurora police shooting from over the weekend. Officers shot a man while arresting another man. It happened Saturday on Chambers near Hinckley High School. Officers were responding to a domestic violence call. They say that they arrested Juan Ruiz Reta, but say he was uncooperative and then another man got involved. An officer shot that other man in the leg. The critical incidents response team is investigating that incident. Still to come, your first paycheck of the new year is going to look just a little different. The new state deduction for a program you can't even use until next year. We'll explain. And we're breaking down what's changing when it comes to your bills. Why, even with gas prices coming down, you're still going to see high costs from Excel.